The dark, deep rabbit hole that comes with reversing type 2 diabetes is what I want to talk about today. And I think a lot of you guys need to hear this. This is a message that most of us are going to find sooner or later, but it's not dismal. I don't want you to walk away today feeling discouraged, you know, that all's lost. People, I think they love the drama of that, but there is some drama that we need to get out in the open. We all need to understand, right? What's going to happen with you guys, like what happened with me, is that you're going to most likely reverse type 2 diabetes, and it's going to be because of the health benefits of getting regular exercise and getting off the standard, wherever you are, world diet, and that's the thing that got you here. So you're going to make a correlation to where you're going to understand that type 2 diabetes is not a metabolic disease that's going to, meaning that it's just happening for no reason whatsoever. It's happening because of the food you ate. And the way I know this to be true is that diabetes runs rampant in my family, but it runs rampant in a lot of people's family. If 50% of Americans are walking around, they're pre-diabetic, that doesn't mean that, in my book anyways, that it's genetic. What it has to do is the food. How is it that I would be able to reverse my type 2 diabetes, and by dietary changes, and all of a sudden magically it's gone? Blood sugars are right back to normal. I lost just under 50 pounds. I got off blood pressure medications. Like, I feel healthy as I ever have. I feel like I'm 30 years old. How is it that just a dietary change, a lifestyle change, could make such a difference with type 2 diabetes? So the problem is, and I love the movie The Matrix to express this opinion of mine, and these are all just opinions, but it's like when Morpheus gives Nemo the option to take the red or the blue pill, right? Once you go down the rabbit hole, you can never go back. So once you make the distinct connection that I've changed my diet, I stopped eating sugars, I stopped eating carbs, if that's the route you're gonna go like I did, and you start getting good blood sugars, you're like, okay, it's the food. And when you first start out like I did, it was like, okay, made a pact with myself. No sugars or anything that convert to sugars. And this involved carbs, fruits, honey, right? Some things that you think would be healthy. Vegetables like potatoes, root crops. When I went to the grocery store, I ended up circling around for hours, reading labels and trying to figure out what I could eat. And what I come to found is that 95% of whatever's in the grocery store is literally out there to kill me. It's basically poison. This is very discouraging at first, right? So I also want to preface here too, a lot of people say, well, just eat around the perimeter of the grocery store. That's not necessarily true either. There are certain things like canned vegetables, like canned beans, if you want to go that route, which are high in carbohydrates. But there's also some canned meats like tuna, chicken, beef, corned beef, things that I've tested that, they're in the center of the aisle. They're fine. I think mechanically separated meats are not the best choice, but I would rather see somebody eat, a package of sausage links. I forget the name of them, these little link things that are in there, processed pork, chicken, and, in some ways too, I agree with certain other diabetic influencers that like hot dogs and sausage links, canned meats are actually made out of, they're the byproducts of the animal. They take most of the meat and sell that because it's highly profitable. Then they take the leftover, the organs and stuff, and pretty much grind it up. And the organs are actually pretty healthy for you. And the reason I don't think that canned tuna, canned meats are a bad deal is because you can can your own beef and tuna in a mason jar, and it's pretty much the same thing. Now, I think that aluminum and metal cans lined with plastics are less effective as far as being healthy for an individual compared to glass and a mason jar. But I don't think it's a huge spot where you have to avoid the complete center aisle. But the point is once you reverse type 2 diabetes, you can't look back and see if you follow what this guy Adrian says he did, and you replicate it, you're gonna feel really good, and you're gonna see, oh my God, like I can never go back. There's poison everywhere. You're gonna watch your family members eating it. And if you take in consideration with the statistics of science and so-called reputable agencies that are out there, and you come to the conclusion that 50% of people are becoming at least pre-diabetic, and that the numbers throughout the years since the 1970s have more than 4x'd, you're going to look around you and say, oh my God, everybody's poisoning themselves. This is not a very delightful place to be, right? And then the more you try to convince people, you know, for me, that's why I'm here on this channel, is because once you achieve something like I have done for myself, and this character, Big A, we'll call him, right? You get excited and you actually want to defend people and you want to notify them. When you get something, you've tackled something, a mountain like type 2 diabetes, and you've eradicated it, now comes the choice to, you know, or not necessarily the choice, but it comes to the feeling like, I want to tell the world about this. And then the other part of the dark rabbit hole is the world does not want to hear what you have to say. What the world wants is to continue eating cupcakes, right? Hamburger buns, McDonald's. They want their cereal in the morning, their bread, their pastas. It tastes delightful. They want to keep drinking alcohol. Who doesn't want to? Nobody loves beer more than I do, and I haven't had a drop in over a year. I love it for the flavor, and I actually like being buzzed. Being buzzed is a wonderful feeling. Being drunk sucks, but being buzzed is wonderful. But I know the consequences of what comes with that lifestyle. That's type 2 diabetes, my friends, which can actually, if not take your life, will actually take some of your limbs and shorten your life. So you begin to see all these things. And then it goes even a step further where once you beat type 2 diabetes, you may experience certain things like me, who you don't know that you were sick until you got well, right? You didn't know that these foods were making you lethargic. They were making you fat. They were making you gain headaches, like nuts for me. One of my favorite things to eat was half a green apple, sliced very thin with almond butter on top, right? It gave me that sweetness, but it also gave the protein to fill me up. It was just a wonderful thing to eat, especially as a type 2 diabetic. Eating just meat all the time, I'd get kind of bored, and you know, I want to satiate a sweet tooth. And I thought, well, what better way than to do it naturally with apples and something supposedly healthy? Even certain establishments that are devoted to type 2 diabetes that are out there, big establishments, are recommending that you go ahead and eat these type of foods. But what you're going to find as well is not only did you reverse type 2 diabetes, lose weight and everything, but now you're going to start to find that even some of these other foods are starting to affect you in different ways beyond type 2 diabetes, like migraine headaches from the histamines of nuts. You may not. I don't know. And then you may get into what the carnivore world calls eat like our ancestors. So this is a dark black rabbit hole that goes on forever as well, an abyss to where you start to notice, well, what we want to do, eat like our ancestors, we want to mimic natural occurrences. For instance, to me, you start to really geek out and start to think about things like, you know, there's a lot of things in the world, or a lot of edible things on the planet that just simply don't want to be eaten. Animals have legs and they run away from you. They don't want to be killed. Nobody wants to be killed and eaten, right? And then we start to look at certain things like plants that don't have legs, or the nuts from trees, right? These things can't run away. So what is their defense mechanism? If you've ever brushed up against a tomato bush and you start to smell a very strong odor, an aroma, that's basically the defense mechanism of a tomato saying, look, something's starting to hurt me. Thrash, it senses danger. It'll literally change its chemical makeup. So, you know, interesting one on plants, I can tell you guys, is a documentary called What Plants Talk About. And there was the tobacco, it's a wild bush called the tobacco plant. And literally, it's astounding and amazing. So, especially for all my vegan friends out there, if you think that plants don't have intelligence, you better think again. The tobacco plant will literally produce sugar to attract insects to come, right? It'll put these little droplets of sugar. So these little worms will come and eat that sugar, right? And then what the plant will do is that once it goes to flower, the worms will leave, from memory serves me correctly here, and turn into a moth. Well, the tobacco plant will literally change its flower structure to attract only this moth, because this is the moth that's able to pollinate it. It's been so many years since I've seen the documentary on it, but it literally will happen where you'll see some flowers on this plant. You'll come back the next day, they'll look completely different, almost unrecognizable. That is intelligence, my friends, and it attracts a certain moth to pollinate it. And yet this is a deadly plant that if consumed in high quantities, most insects would die, right? But it switches its chemical format back and forth, back and forth. And if you watch what plants talk about, you'll understand that plants have this amazing ability to not only communicate with each other, but to communicate with insects. I think it was a positive, there was a charge where a plant with a flower with a plant with a flower on it has this negative charge, and there's bees that are flying that have a positive charge. Well, once the bee lands on the flower, it actually gives a neutral charge, right? They charge each other. It's fascinating, and because of that buzzing of the plant, basically the bee will vibrate and it'll collect pollen all over its body. Well, once it pollinates that plant, the bee, once it gets its pollen on its back, the charge of the plant actually changes in electrical currency, so that when another bee comes, it already could sense that there's not enough negative charge on that plant, right? So there's not going to be, it might be the other way around, positive and negative, I can't remember, but the point is here is that once the bee comes, it senses that there's not enough charge, right? There's not enough negative, so the plant's basically telling the bee, don't waste your time with me, I've already been pollinated, I've already given my pollen up to the bee, find another plant. So that's why you'll see these bees kind of searching around for different plants. It's a beautiful story. Anyways, the name of the game of this, I'll finish up with the last one, is nuts. So the natural order of things, you would look at something like a walnut, and it's designed itself so that you can't just get its fruit, you can't get its baby in there, right? These are all live things. These are things that want to survive, and that's their babies, and we're coming in to eat their babies, no matter how you look at it. I mean, I'd love to have this up for debate, but if we really went down the rabbit hole, that's pretty much it. Plants, the trees with nuts, that's their babies. They want those babies to grow, and they're going to defend them. So they make it very difficult for a certain creatures to get to the baby. And if they do get to the baby, it's like a walnut is encrusted, has many different cavities. It's a lot of work. You may get that baby from that plant, but that plant's going to make you work for it to where it's like not even worth it. You expend more calories trying to get the nut to consume. You expend more than you actually get from it. So it naturally has a defense where it's like, you know what, here you go. Yeah, you got me, but I'm going to make you work for it and not make it worth your while. So you'll leave me alone. And it also has a protective layer on the skin where I think where the histamines and tannins, and I think it's tannins and things like that exist, where if you ever did get a walnut, a peanut, an almond, take the shell off and get a tablespoon of it and chew it on your two front teeth and see what kind of flavor you get in your mouth. It's going to be very bitter. And most likely it's going to change something in your stomach acids. You're going to have indigestion. You might even develop a headache. This is its defense mechanism. So the dark rabbit hole is that everything is trying to live and nothing wants to die. It's going to defend itself. We're all basically takers of lives in one form or another. But in order to eat healthy, if we can get past just that concept right there, that when you walk across your front lawn, you're actually killing thousands of, not millions of bugs. And the production of food is just insane, right? From the animals to the insects to the microbiology, the amount of damage we do with farming. So it's a very ugly pit that goes in, but there's a lot that we can do, guys. There's a lot we can do. We can start gardening in our own backyards, producing our own food. And really when it comes down to it, I'll use this last analogy to shut this down, is that you would think the same thing that I think when you see the words grass-fed beef. 100% grass-fed beef. Well, that's not the case. I've talked about this a lot. I want you guys, anybody who's new here, to go look it up for yourself, and you can see some videos where a grass-fed beef is not actually raised on pasture. Although it may appear that way, it sounds like it. It's just an open white lie. What's actually being done is the cow is stuck in a cage, some of them just enough to stand in, so that they can get thousands of cows and be able to sell grass-fed beef at $5 a pound instead of 20, right? And by the way, they don't have to be just grass-fed. It says grass-fed, but they can legally put in such things as corn, soy, or whatever have you to get that marbleization of fat on the animal. But the animal's literally sitting in its own piss and shit under fake light. I like to call it prosthetic light. And grass is clipped in large quantities, brought in on a conveyor or a truck, and it's poured in a trough for the cow to consume, and that's considered grass-fed. You were being lied to, my friends, on everything. But the way for us to do this, and it's not very convenient, is the problem. Convenience is what keeps us locked in to this death trap, in my opinion, the rat race. Because it's too much trouble to drive up a mountain and go to your local farmer and get pasture-raised beef where you know it's coming from, where you know it's eating grass, it's in the sunshine and living like an animal should, and hopefully processed humanely. But is it? There's all kinds of hacks, my friends. And one thing I've noticed with the beef factor is that I can go to Costco or all these different places and buy beef in large quantities. Like I'll buy a big roast of let's say ribeye steaks, and all I have to do is take it home and slice it myself, and I can save 50% off the cost. It goes from $26, $28 a pound to like $11.99 a pound. But I know where that beef comes from. That's not even grass-fed, that's just corn-fed. But if I go to my local farmer and support them with eggs and chickens and things like that, not only do I know where my food is, but in some cases actually cheaper. So the beef that if I buy a half a steer, it actually ends up being pound for pound around $11, or I think back then it might be $11 now. I think it was $9 a pound for the entire cow. This doesn't mean you're getting just filet mignons. You're getting burger, beef fat, round steak, chuck roast, tri-tip, things like that. But on average, it costs around $9 a pound for an entire cow. But it takes the effort to drive up that mountain and go get that thing. But it doesn't take much effort in my book. We can switch things around for ourselves instead of shopping in the grocery stores, because once I buy that half steer, whole steer, quarter steer, I mean, guys, you can go in with a family and get as much quantity as you want, more or less. But I'll fill up my freezer one time a year, and I never have to go to the grocery store and buy food, at least beef, ever again. I can do the same with chickens. There's many different ways if we're willing to think outside of the box. And I want you guys to think that the black, dark abyss of the rabbit hole of type 2 diabetes is that we have been in our comfort zone and remain to be in our comfort zone. We're only limited to the limitations of our imagination of what we can do about situations like this. And that, my friends, is the way that we can literally flourish by helping those around us, helping the planet, helping ourselves, helping our pocketbook and our health to be a better place for the bugs, insects, animals, the well-being of our planet Earth, and the people that reside in it. So it's not necessarily an all dooms gloom. The dooms gloom is getting out of that comfort zone, right? We've all locked ourselves in our homes to put the air conditioner on when we need it and the heater. We don't like pain. And unfortunately, in order to get somewhere, just like a bodybuilder does not get fit and big and buff, right? And big muscles by not experiencing pain. Runners, athletes, anybody who's ever done anything, even outside of physical activity, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, no matter how you feel about these people, any of these people have done anything successful with money, with any kind of achievements, had to experience pain, but yet it's the thing we run away from. And if we change our mindset, flip that pain, not saying that we have to hurt all the time, we just have to get out of this modern convenience, because this modern convenience is what's killing us, and also the limitations of our imaginations. So that's the kind of information I share here on this channel, is we're solutions based. That's a big one I like to close with too, is we're not here to whine and cry about things. It's okay to whine and cry and get discouraged and feel sorry for yourself, because it is a lot. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it's a very dreadful thing to do. But once you get past it, you start to see the beauty of how beautiful life could be when you involve yourself in nature and the community around you who has things to offer, you need them and they need you. It's the corporations with the large factory foods that are growing that grass-fed beef to undercut the farmers by selling ground beef for $5 a pound, right? Where you can literally get it for probably $9 a pound, but it's grass-fed, grass-finished. And think about the ROI. It's not just about saving the world or anything, but it's saving your life. Think about the amount of money you'd have to pay on medications and surgeries and like Medicare, whatever you're doing, medical, right? And who wants to go sit in an office to save all the time for surgeries and things like that? When literally you're investing in yourself and you're investing in your community and the surroundings around you. So this is my message for you guys today. We got to stop the rat race. We got to stop the matrix. Take the pill, go down the rabbit hole. Go down it though, knowing this is what you're going to expect. But know that once you pop out the other side, you will be better for it. So that's my message today. Hopefully I've enlightened your life and not got you guys scared, but these are conversations that we have every day. Things like this, everything related to type 2 diabetes at 6 p.m. live on YouTube. We also post on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. there's shorts, there's long form content just like this, and the lives. We are trying to go live on TikTok every once in a while, but there's not much good action there. There's always links in the description for you guys. I have free stuff, and I hope this message helps you out, because if you are starting your journey to reverse type 2 diabetes, these are the things you're going to encounter, and this is the way that I can make it easier for you. What to expect when you're expecting. See you guys on the next video.